All right. So, before we started live streaming today, we spent a lot of time talking about the principles of animation, okay? But today, I wanted to spend the rest of our time talking about the animation pipeline that we're going to be practicing for the remainder of this course and kind of jumping in and making some animation, okay? We have two small things that we're striving to accomplish. There's a very simple lab exercise and then a slightly more complex homework exercise that I'm going to leave you guys to explore and to continue to build over the course of the next 7 days. However, I wanted to start off in Canvas real fast because there's a couple little tricks in here that I think everyone should be at the very least aware of before we keep going, okay? So the moment we log into Canvas, naturally we're going to see our dashboard, the list of all the classes we're currently enrolled in. As I mentioned last week, this is our maiden voyage of Canvas this semester. There are some bugs that have popped up over the last couple weeks that I think are changing everyone's general kind of user experience. So let me show you one that was brought up yesterday or the day before. And it has everything to do with the classes that are available to us inside our dashboard, or let me change that. Our perception of what's available to us inside of our dashboard, and specifically, let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? On the surface, the dashboard seems like it's kind of, all the classes that we're currently enrolled in, but it's more than meets the eye, and let me show you what I'm talking about. If we change over this Courses button right here, check it out. This Courses button, again, on the surface, it just seems like it's showing you the classes that you're enrolled in. But go down to all courses, and this is important if you don't see our class in the dashboard, and even though I changed your name, or called your name, excuse me, but check it out. Here are all the classes that are available to me right now inside of my Canvas shell, and there are a bunch of them. Check it out, though. Some have little stars next to them. Whatever course is favorited or starred are the courses that are going to show up in your dashboard. Okay? So look at this list. This list is a true representation of every single class that you're currently enrolled in or you have access to with Canvas. If you don't see GCOM 400 on that list, go into this area, find it, and then put a little star next to it. Whatever is starred is going to show up inside of your dashboard. And as you can see, I have a bunch of things in here that are not in my dashboard. Okay? They gave us a course shell for the lecture component of GCOM 400 and a lab portion, right? I'm only using the lecture portion because it's just kind of confusing to have two different Canvas shells for the exact same class. So the only ones that I've made available and the only ones that I'm going to use are my lecture ones. So if I go back into my dashboard, I only see the classes that I'm currently have favorited from that list. Okay, great little trick going forward. Okay, let's jump into GCOM 400 real fast and take a look at a couple of things that we're going to be working with today. And I apologize, let me change over to student view so what you see on my screen looks identical to what you see on yours. Inside of the week 2 module, we have 2 missions that we're striving to complete this week. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to start talking about the bouncing ball, and we'll come back to the details of this here in a minute. But if you want, check it out. This is an assignment, giving you a really great example of what we're striving to accomplish in this animation. Just a very simple animation of a ball going down, bouncing across the screen. We'll come back to that in a minute. In addition, the other small mission that we're striving to accomplish this week is what I call the Screen Direction Lab, and it's the easiest animation that you'll make all year. And literally, we're just trying to generate movement. The whole purpose of this lab assignment is just to get comfortable with the process, to go all the way through our sequence on a wickedly simple animation. And yes, we're just trying to animate something going from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen and then back again. Okay? It really is that simple, but it's an important step for us as we start to learn the tools and to learn the animation sequence. Okay? This will literally be the easiest thing you do all semester. So this is the goal for the next little period of time. And I hope that you start to build this with me. There's no reason you shouldn't or couldn't build your Screen Direction Lab in the demonstration that we're about to go through. Okay? I think you're going to find a lot of our labs are going to be hands-on labs, and the best way to learn this material is just to jump in, get your hands dirty with it, make some mistakes, hit the buttons, and see what happens. Okay? You really can't learn our tools by just watching me. You got to do it. Okay, which brings us to our tool set. How are we going to animate inside of this class? We're going to be animating using Adobe Animate, which used to be called Adobe Flash. And they're changing its entire branding to really appeal to traditional animators. And it's a good little animation application. I like it very much. It's purpose-built for the animation pipeline. So there's a lot of tools and workflows inside of the application that allow us very, very quickly to get up and running. I almost said it. I almost said Flash. I got to change my way of thinking here too. Adobe Animate is a deep program. Yeah.
If I was working at home on Flash, are files transferable?
That's fine. Yeah.
Well, like saying but then I wanted to work on an Animate. Is there a?
Yeah. So everything is forwards compatible.
Okay.
It's the backward. Yeah.
It was forwards compatible. So.
It's the backwards compatibility that's where we get into some problems. Okay. So we're going to be working with Adobe Animate 2017. Okay. It's the latest and greatest from the Adobe world. If you're working on a previous version of Adobe Animate or an Adobe Flash, I think we can still make it work. We're not going to be doing anything, that uses the most recent tool set in Adobe Animate. Point being, we can be flexible with that. Okay. All right. Adobe Animate is a pretty deep app. This rabbit hole goes down pretty far. If you have a lot of experience inside of Flash or Adobe Animate, that's awesome. Help your neighbors, okay? It's going to be kind of weird and wacky for the first-timers out there. We're not going to talk about all the features today. We're going to make simple movements, okay? And then our exposure to this software and our exposure to the animation pipeline will naturally continue to grow over the next 15 weeks, okay? If you do have a lot of experience inside of Flash and you're helping your neighbor, try real hard, and this is hard, try real hard to stay on pace and on target with me, okay? It's really easy to say, oh, there's a better way, or you can do this little feature or that little thing, you can make guides or onion skinning. We're going to get to all that stuff when we get there. I just don't want to confuse the folks that are seeing this for the first time, okay? Okay, let's jump in and start working instead of Adobe Animate. It's actually a really cool, easy application to learn. As one might imagine, you can find Adobe Animate inside of your Applications directory. I've already, now I'm on my laptop because I forgot to bring something with me today. But if you go down, is it in your dock down there at the bottom? It is. It should be down in your dock. It's the first, kind of the red icon at the bottom of your dock with the AN. That's Animate, okay? And it's our new home away from home. All right, I already have it launched and ready to go. So when you open up Adobe Animate for the first time, it's going to ask you to make a new document, okay? In every sense, this document is kind of the canvas. It's the screen. It's the area in which our animations are going to live. And there are a couple things that we need to look at real fast. I will find the right combo of lights. There we go. There's a couple things we need to look at real fast to ensure that we're producing the canvas that matches our desired output. And this is the first thing that we need to zero in on, is how big our playground is going to be. Because this is something that we really don't want to change after the fact. For almost all of our animations that we're going to be doing in here, we're going to be animating at a screen resolution of 1280 by 720. It's a good little screen resolution. It's the lowest quality HD resolution that we have out there, okay? In this way, you can upload to Facebook or YouTube and share your animations with your larger kind of social group. And it's not going to produce a file size that's 200 megabytes in size. It's going to be pretty manageable. In addition, and probably most importantly, it also directly mirrors the aspect ratio of high definition television. Okay, we need to get used to animating our motions and our stories inside of a rectangle versus a square, because that's how the cinema and the television world see all of their frames. Luckily for us, though, there are some really, really great templates, okay, that will set everything up for you. So, question? So if you go into the template section, where we're going here is under Media Playback, Worst Title Ever, but Title Safe 720p, or HDTV 720. So if you're not getting that little widget on your screen, just do File, New Document. top of the screen, File menu, New. Let me zoom out. So File, New. This should generate this exact same little window, okay? And if you go to the Templates tab, Media Playback, Title Safe Area, HDTV 720. This is automatically going to change your canvas to the appropriate resolution, and you'll be able to rock and roll. At the very least, has everyone created your canvas? All right, very cool. Okay, so welcome to Animate. Welcome to Animate. It's a really great little application. Actually, I shouldn't say little because it's a pretty deep application. You can do some pretty great things in there. But it's a little bit different from some of the other applications that we're used to working with. Even though it's part of the Adobe suite, this is not Photoshop, okay? This is not Illustrator. Yes, there are some really great drawing and authoring tools inside the app. But remember, this is an animation package, okay? It's purpose-built to make animations, okay? All right. Yes, go ahead. Templates, Media Playback.
Media.
Yeah. And then Title Safe Area, HDTV 720. All right. Oh, look what you got. This is fun. Oh, you're in Photoshop. We want to animate. Yeah, this one down here. We're going to be doing all of our authoring, so all of our drawing, all of our image creation inside of Animate. Okay, it's going to be a pretty great app. Once we get a little bit more comfort in here, if you are more comfortable doing some illustration in Illustrator or you're used to painting inside of Photoshop, that's cool too. We can incorporate those documents into our animation. That's fine. That's one of the big advantages of living in the Adobe umbrella, right? It's something that we make in one app can almost always be incorporated into another application. So let me take you on a tour here. As one might imagine, here is our stage, our canvas, our scene here in the middle. What we see is what we get. If we see it inside that white area, that's what's going to be produced when we export our animation for YouTube or for Facebook, okay? This center canvas is where we're going to be doing almost like 100% of our authoring. This is where we're going to draw. This is where we're going to spend a lot of time moving things around and so forth. It's our primary work area. Now, the other, probably secondary most important area is our timeline down here, okay? And as one might imagine, this is where we're going to be setting up the length of all of our animation, adding and changing keyframed values, and doing a lot of the traditional animation work, okay? So those are our two big areas that we're going to be working with. But if you travel over to the right-hand side of the screen, we also have some other tools over here. And we'll get into this a little bit more in detail. We have a Properties tab, which will show us a lot of really wonderful settings for both the entire animation. And if we have something selected, this will show us properties on that selected element. It's pretty great. We'll be coming in and out of here a lot. In addition, we also have something called a library. And inside of the Adobe Animate world, we can create recyclable elements that we can use in a lot of different animations and shots. Those will be called clips, and we'll see those actually in play here in a minute, okay? And those clips will be available to us inside of our library. And then if you keep cruising over there on the right-hand side, naturally we have all of our tools, and there's a bunch of them, okay? One of the really fantastic things about working inside of Adobe Animate is that a majority, if not all of their tools, are vector-based drawing and illustration tools, which is great. So we'll never see those horrible little jagged edges and low-quality imagery with the stuff that we create inside of Adobe Animate. All right. So there's a bunch of tools. As we continue to grow and experience inside of Adobe Animate, you'll see us exploring the role and the purpose of these tools a little bit more directly. If you have some experience in the other Adobe apps, many of these tools are going to feel very, very comfortable to you. Others are pretty new, like creating bones and animation armatures and things like that. There's some good stuff in here that's specific to the animation pipeline that you're not going to see over inside of Photoshop or Illustrator for that matter, okay? All right. let's jump in, shall we, and make our first little animation, okay? Our animation, or our process of animation, is going to begin inside of our properties panel. Because there's one thing that we need to change before we get going. And if we cruise over to our properties panel here real fast, oops, and my screen is cutting it off, many apologies. I'm going to collapse the publish section. There it is, here's our properties. So these are the properties for our stage, our canvas, our playground, if you will. Naturally, we have a frame width and height. We have a background color that we can change for our stage. And then most importantly, and the thing that we need to change on every single one of our animations is the frame rate. That first value, FPS, which stands for frames per second, okay? In the cinema world, what frame rate do we animate at? 24. 24. Now, does anyone know why we animate at 24 frames a second? Yeah, no one knows why, right? Yeah, no one knows why it's 24. There are theories and there's legends out there as to why the cinema industry landed on 24. The theorists will tell you, and the cinematographers will, hey, well, 24 frames a second gives us a good natural kind of appealing motion blur on all the objects as they go across the scene. And they do, and they really do. The higher the frame rate, the less motion blur on our objects, right? Did you guys ever see The Hobbit? The first Hobbit film? You know, Peter Jackson did The Lord of the Rings, and then he did King Kong, and then he did the Hobbit films, right? Well, he shot the entirety of The Hobbit at 48 frames a second. And if you were lucky, and if you saw The Hobbit when it first came out, a couple theaters in town actually ran the film at 48 frames a second. I was actually lucky to see a 48 frames a second version of The Hobbit, and it was weird. It was really weird. Did anyone else see it at 48 frames? Yeah, did you see it? Do you remember what it felt like to you?
It's like between TV shows and movies.
Yeah, without that motion blur, everything feels very crisp. All the movements feel very, very sharp, right? At 24 frames a second, you get this lovely kind of blurring effect across every single thing that's moving inside the frame. And at 48, that motion blur is reduced. It was cool because it kind of made everything feel very three-dimensional. It immersed you in that environment. But our cinema kind of history went, this is not cool. Yeah.
I think one of the most polarizing things, that happens with this is that if you're flipping through TV channel stuff and you pass by HBO and Game of Thrones is on, and then you go over and you pass by Days of Our Lives, it's the most polarizing thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Because Days of Our Lives is bam, 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 bam,
Everything's real crisp. Yeah, everything's real crisp. Yep. It's one of the kind of the visual separators between the cinema world and, well, kind of everyone else is our frame rate and that lovely motion blur that we get at 24. Point being, back to animate here, is that we need to change our frame rate from 2997, which is the television frame rate, to 24. Okay? That way, the animations that we create are going to be played back at the appropriate frame rate. Okay? Now, if you left this at 29, would it be the end of the world? No, it wouldn't be the end of the world. However, it's going to be damn near impossible to go back and change this frame rate after, because you're going to be making decisions and creative decisions on the speed of your movement based off what you see inside of your stage. You don't want to have to go back in after the fact and reanimate everything because you changed the frame rate. The size of our stage and the frame rate of our animations need to be set first, and then we kind of forget about them for the rest of the time. These are things that you don't want to change after, because in every sense, it's kind of back to formula, as they say, and you have to restart if you need to make a change. Okay? All right. We'll leave that advanced setting button for a little bit later, and let's start getting to work. Okay? So down here, of course, is our timeline. And let's just look at some of the components of our timeline itself. Your timeline here in Adobe Animate is kind of similar to how the layers stack over inside of Photoshop works. We're continuing to paint on layers of transparent glass. And the objects on each one of those layers can move inside of Adobe Animate, which is why we have the ability to create new layers by hitting this lovely little page button. And we can create groups. And this button right here, what do you think the trash can is going to do? It's going to delete something, right? Now, with this template that we've chosen from Adobe Animate, they've given us a really, really great title safe and action safe indication. This is very, very directed towards the television crew. Okay, if you're making an animation that's going to show up on channel 3, you have to be you have to pay really close attention to these boxes. The title safe and the action safe are the safe areas within inside the frame that you know your audience is going to see the picture on the screen itself. This is a really great example. We have a television in here. Okay, here's our little television. Actually, I can't say little; it's kind of big. It's great, by the way. I'm trying to get a mount to mount it on the wall so y'all can see it a little bit more directly. I use this from time to time during my classes. But the screen extends past the bezel of the frame. Now, with LCD screens, our bezels are getting very, very tiny, right? But the screen does go into this black plastic border that goes around the frame, right? We don't want to have critical parts of our animation end up in that little black border outside of what our audience is going to see because they're just not going to see it, okay? That's why we have these safe zones. The action safe is the safe zone for all important movements, and then the title safe is the safe zone for all text that shows up on screen, right? If you've ever wondered if you're watching like the news or most television shows that have like text on screen, what's determining the placement of that text in the screen itself? It's that title safe zone. All of our text needs to be in there to ensure that every television on the face of the planet will see that little thing of text. I made that mistake, I think, once or twice, where I've accidentally placed text outside of my title safe and getting a grumpy phone call from your client the next day saying, "Why did my name get cut off on my television last night?" And you go, "That's my bad. That's because I forgot to put your name inside the title safe zone." However, for what we're going to be doing in here, all of our content's going to be created and authored for like the web, okay, or just for our local computer screens. We can get rid of this. We don't need that layer. If you want, keep it. Sure, why not? It's there. But I'm going to get rid of it because it's just going to get in the way, all right? So I'm going to select that layer, okay? You can left-click on each one of these layers. And then just hit the garbage can, and it's gone, okay? All right. So let's do something with that first layer. Let's do some drawing in here. Let's have some fun with it. Because one of the great things about working inside of Adobe Animate is that we can use our authoring tools to make some really, really, really neat, fun kind of fun illustrations and animations. That's where all of your tools on the right-hand side come into play. And we have some basic shape creation tools up here. And I'm going to create just a square with the tool selected. You can see very quickly we get some drawing options up here. And I'll leave you to explore those. They're pretty self-explanatory, okay? Let's, however, I don't want it to be blue. I want it to be gray, because I'm going to draw kind of like the ground. Okay, there we go. And we're on our way. Now, it's okay to draw outside the lines. It really is, as I've done here. That's fine. But at the end of the day, whatever's inside of our stage is what's going to be exported from the app itself. Okay? So you can color outside the lines, but know that whatever's inside that white box is what's going to be saved. All right. So I'm going to rename my content layer. I'm going to call this background. There we go. Awesome. Let's put something else in here too. Let's see. Inside. We'll keep it basic for today. I'm going to do another cube here. And on this one, let's make its fill color not white. Oops, I don't have it selected, excuse me. I made a boo-boo. Now I need to select the cube that I just drew, okay? You can do that by going to this dark arrow at the top of your toolbar. This is the direct selection tool. Keyboard shortcut is V, by the way. And with that little cube selected, I can continue to change any number one of its parameters. And I messed up. I forgot to change my fill color back to a lovely shade. Oh, I don't know. Let's do a light blue. Let's put it back on my stage. There we go. Awesome. There we go. And what I'm doing here is just slowly kind of building up an environment. That's all I'm doing. A little sky and a ground. Okay? All right. So there's my background. Let's make something else here. Oops, that's my fault. let's make a new layer. And I'm going to call this layer circle. And as one might imagine, on my circle layer, I'm going to draw a red circle. If you hold down the Shift key, by the way, it'll constrain the shape to a perfect circle. And I did that on the wrong layer. There we go. Let's try that again. Now this circle is going to be the primary driver for our movement. In every sense, I want to move my ball from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. Okay? Now, if you're running into this problem on your screen where you've drawn a shape and then you grab it with the direct selection tool and you see a little ghosted outline remain in its original location, does anyone know what that is? It's the outline of the ball. Okay? Whenever you create an object that has a fill and a stroke, which is a fancy word for outline, those two elements are going to be separate. I'm going to hit the undo key, get them back. There we go. If you want to move them together, just make sure you're, I have my background layer is getting in the way, so I'm going to lock it down. That way I can't select it. There we go. You'll have to select both areas of your ball and your stroke to move them together. Okay? Now, if you just want to deal with one and not the other, you're more than welcome and encouraged to go in, select just the stroke as I have here, and then just hit the backspace key to delete it. You don't need it, but it's there if you need it. Okay? All right. So here's the big picture idea. We've created some content using the basic shape creation tools inside of Animate, but now we need to get them to move. Okay? And this is where the fun begins. Okay? This is where the fun begins. Has everyone, at the very least, been able to make just a ball? Yeah? Okay, cool. This is where the fun begins. I want to animate the contents of that layer, and specifically the circle itself. Okay? Now, in order for me to animate this, okay, we have to tell the computer to generate some frames of animation for us. Okay? We tell the computer how long the animation on just this one layer is going to be, and then it will create frames of animation for us. This isn't like After Effects or Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro, where there's an infinite number of frames just available to us, right? For us, we specifically tell the computer how many frames to create per layer, okay? Now, I'm going to select, if you look carefully here, inside of our timeline, this little red bar is our current time indicator. I don't have any frames here, so it's always going to be on frame 1. Let me zoom in so you guys can see it. These two little gray bars behind that little red line, those are frames. Okay? Those are frames. Every layer is always, always, always going to generate an animation frame on frame 1. Okay? But we need to tell it how many frames after that. All right, let's do it real fast. I'm going to do it on this first layer, and then I'll do it again on the second layer, on the background. And I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have an animation that is 48 frames. Yeah, here's 50, 49, 48. Okay, so 2 seconds. That's as long as this animation is going to be. And notice that I've selected that frame, and its background color has gone gold. It's a great indication that you've selected a frame. What the computer is going to do now, after we add some after we add some frames, is it's going to fill in the blank between frame 1 and frame 48. Now, in order to do this, we have to go to the top of the screen where it says Insert. And I'll zoom in so you guys can see it. Insert, Timeline, and then Frame. Commit to memory the keyboard shortcut for inserting a frame. It's F5. You're going to be doing this a lot inside of Adobe Animate. Bloop. If you look carefully down here, now on this first layer, we have 48 frames of animation, and now I can grab my current time indicator, which is a fancy word for playhead, and move it around and preview the range of frames that I'm available to work within. However, what is, I mentioned earlier that stage is what you see is what you get, right? Whatever's in that stage is what's going to be produced and saved and exported from the app. What is magically missing right now? The background, right? Now, where exclusively, or what frame is my background exclusively on right now? Frame 1. So we need to do the exact same thing for our background layer if we want to have our background be visible for the entire duration of our animation. Let's just do it one more time. So I'm going to put my cursor on the second layer, the second row, and once again on frame 48, and I'm going to hit F5. The moment I hit F5 on my keyboard, you can see the contents of my background, which kind of got moved around by my butterfingers here, have now been flooded for every animation frame on that row. Ha ha ha! Now we're getting there, right? Stepping closer and closer and closer towards what we want to be, or where we're trying to go. Alrighty, right. So we have a timeline. We've defined the parameters of our animation, the length of it, but we really haven't asked the computer to animate anything for us, right? So let's do it. Let's actually create our first little simple animation, okay? The current time indicator, the playhead, the red line is going to be the driver of these next steps, okay? In the world of animation, we set an initial pose, okay? As we have here, we set an initial keyframe, and look carefully, there's 2 black dots. Those are the Adobe Animate convention of showcasing a keyframe to you. Compare them to the open white cubes at the end of the timeline, okay? Those are the Adobe Animate convention for frames. So there's keyframes that hold animation information, and then there are frames which are just kind of like empty, that are just empty. They don't have any information in there. Okay. So we set a keyframe, as we have automatically done on frame 1, and then we move the playhead forward. Okay, and I'm going to put it right there to frame 24, kind of in the middle of our timeline. Once we move the playhead forward, we then need to make a change to the object that we want to animate, which in my case is going to be my red ball. Okay, so I grab my red ball, and I move it to where I want to go. Ha! Wait. Nothing happened, right? We only exclusively move the object. If I scrub my timeline down here, my playhead, nothing happening yet. That's because we haven't told the computer to lock in and to save this change on our timeline to create a new keyframe, okay? It's not going to automatically do it for us. We have to go in and generate this change for us, and it's really easy to do that. And you'll get comfortable with this process in the not too distant future. So I got my circle selected, and if we go up here where it says, oops, I don't have it selected, that's why. There it is. If we select our circle and go up into the Insert pull-down menu, we can do a motion tween, a shape tween. We'll talk about these a little bit earlier. Let's do a motion tween, okay? Now, when you click on motion tween, it's going to give you this popover, and it says the selected item cannot be tweened. You must convert it to a symbol in order for it to tween, okay? A symbol is like a character, if you will, inside of our world. We can only animate ever symbols, okay? Luckily for us, once we create these symbols, and symbols can be many different things. Symbols can be something as simple as a ball, or a piece of artwork that we import from another application, or a movie file, an animation, a sound effect. They can be a number of really awesome things, but think of them like characters that we're placing inside of our stage. By converting them to a symbol, we're extracting them from just being there and kind of promoting them to a role that can be animated. We can only ever animate symbols, so let's make one. The computer's going to do it for us automatically, which is very lovely. Let's hit OK. And it didn't do it for me, but that's okay, because we'll go back and do it again. Let me show you one thing here real fast. Now that we have a symbol inside of our library, if we go into our library tab, there it is. There's our symbol. Let's give it a good name. This is circle. I misspelled that. Let's get real specific. This is going to be a red circle. And now, since we have a symbol in a library, I can recycle this. I can drag that symbol. Oops. You can reuse that symbol. Let's see. Do you wish to no, I don't want, For whatever reason, there's the motion tween. For whatever reason, it's not letting me do it at the moment. That's because I think I tried to have a tween on there already. But you can put as many of these symbols on your canvas as you want. All right, so let's go in and finish the job here, because at the moment, we have no animation, okay? Excuse me. If I move my sphere back over here, then put it back on frame 24 again, let's go ahead and edit. Oops, the tween should be in there. Why are we not? There it is. I apologize. Wonderful. So you only had to add the tween once, okay? But you got to change its position from its original starting point. If you look carefully down here in the timeline, we have an additional little piece of UI that shows up. The bar is now blue, which is indicating that there's currently animation happening on that timeline. That little gold, excuse me, that little star, I cannot talk because it's not a star, it is a diamond, right? That little diamond represents the tweened keyframe that you created, okay, the motion tween itself. All right, let's go to the last frame of our animation and return our shape from where it came. And then once we have, so you only need to set up the motion tween once, and then it will automatically create that movement for you. If you want to check out your animation, hit the play button at the bottom of your timeline, and you can play it and marvel in your work. Yes, sir? You're not getting a diamond right in the middle of frame. Did you do motion tween? Let's go check it out. See what you got. Everyone just try to get this to work real fast, okay? And if you're stuck, crowdsource your question. Your neighbor might know the answer.
So here and then move it over here. Nothing happens.
Okay. Put it back. Hit undo real fast.
What?
Yep, there we go. Put it back to where it came. Now move your playhead. Cool. Now move it. Yeah, that's fine. Now move your shape. Ta-da! Is the playhead.
Oh,
that was the thing that you missed.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is everyone able to get a simple little movement?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. So, yep. Now move your shape. You're good to go. Move your shape.
Over here.
Yep. And it's hard to see, but that dotted line is a representation of the motion path. Yes, sir. Okay, so the first thing that we got to do, put your playhead on frame like 48 or 50, whatever you want to do. Yeah, select it. Perfect. Now we have to add frames in here for us to draw, right? Let's go to the top of the screen where it says Insert, Timeline, Frame. Cool. Now it floods that range with frames that we can animate within, right?
All right.
Everyone get some movement, okay? Don't leave here today without getting your little ball going from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. Remember the process. We have to add general frames, and then we add that motion tween to get it to move. Yeah, question? Let's do it. Okay. All right, great. So we need to add frames first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Select like frame 48 or just one of them. Just select, yeah, perfect. Now go to the top of the screen where it says Insert, Timeline, Frame. See how it floods that range with some frames now? Awesome. Now, grab your circle. Okay. And it looks like it's selected. And let's do this. Let's do Insert, Motion Tween. Okay, and hit OK to convert it to a symbol, and now move it to the other side of your screen. There it is. Okay, rock and roll.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm stuck here. I started in the wrong direction, I think.
Okay.
Right? So if I can do that.
play your animation for it. Yeah, go ahead and just play your animation.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, okay, let's do this. And I think let's hit undo a couple stages. Let's get rid of all that keyframing that you've done.
Mm-hmm. Does it
Command
work with
Z.
Command Z?
Yeah, you got it. See if we can go back in time. I'm kind of curious what you did to get here. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
That's
you
okay.
started it
Yeah,
in
that's fine.
the wrong direction. Okay.
Aha, okay, good. So now we've put your playhead back over here in like frame 50.
Okay.
Perfect. And insert.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you already had the tween applied, so here's what we need to do. Grab your sphere
Mm-hmm.
and drag it over here.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I can grab it. Oh.
Let's see, that should generate animation. Let's see what you got. Go ahead and yeah, there we go. There we go. And that's fine. If it goes from there to there, that's fine. Yeah, that's no problem. Question. I'll work my way down. What you got?
I did all right on the circle. For
Great.
some reason the background just disappeared.
Yeah. You got to add frames too on that layer as well. Doing that F5 sequence that we did a moment ago. Question. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the movement part. Like,
Okay, great. So you've already applied the tween, which is good. We just need to change its location. So your playhead, the red thing, is on frame 45. Now we just move your circle. Go grab the direct selection tool. There we go. Now we can move it. There you go. The dotted line represents animation, so good job. You did it. Hit the play button. Ta-da! Good job. Yeah.
I did the first one.
Okay.
So I want to
Right. So if you want to do a second animation, you need more animation frames, right? Yeah. So select like, I don't know. Well, you don't have to do it on layer 2. Is that where? Yeah. Select that row. Yep. F5. And then you can continue making a move. There you go. We've already applied the tween. You only apply the tween once. But now move your ball like, I don't know, in the corner or something. And you'll see, yeah. So we've added more frames. And then the movement of our ball on that frame generated a keyframe between those 2 points. Cool, huh? All right, all right. Now, any questions before I keep going here? Okay. Like I said, this is just the very, very absolute, simple basics for this. Okay. You're going to continue to explore this as you work on your homework assignment. But the last thing that you're going to do on every single assignment that we do in this class is that we're going to export it. Okay? We're going to export our animation because right now our animation only exists inside of Adobe Animate. And naturally we're going to want to produce a file that we can share online because I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want to show my friends and family this awesome little animation, right? Because they need to see this. They need to see this, okay? So here's the last step. Well, there's actually 2 things that we need to do. First and foremost, we need to save our project file. So File, Save, okay? Give it a good name. If you look at the assignment sheets on Canvas, I've kind of given you the naming convention that I would like you to follow for all your homework and labs. Every single thing that you turn into me is going to have your last name be the first thing in the file name itself, okay? As an example, so everything is going to start with your last name. Okay, for me it's Crandley. Then underscore, and then we're always going to put our class number in there, GCOM 400. And then the assignment sheet's going to tell you what the remainder looks like. If it's a homework assignment, 9.9 times out of 10, it's just going to be the name of that assignment. If it's a lab assignment, like the one that you're doing now, you're going to put lab in here, and then the name of the lab assignment. If you do this, it makes it really, really easy for me to manage all these files. Because think about it. You personally are going to be producing 2 files per assignment. There's almost 30 of you guys in here, so that's 60 things that I need to manage for one assignment. And oh, by the way, there's always going to be a lab assignment, always going to be a homework assignment. So the number of files that I have to manage now balloons to 120-ish, okay? That's a lot of data. So if you can follow this name convention, it makes it much, much easier for me to manage all this information and to grade your projects in a timely manner because, you know, it's just, you're one of 6 classes. So the amount of the sheer files that I'm managing every single week is just, it's intense, okay? So help me out, name it like this, and we're going to be just fine. So the animate document is the .fla, and this is absolutely a holdover for the good old Flash Day. Okay, this stands for Flash Animation. The FLA is kind of like your master Adobe Animate project. This is going to include your timeline, all of your raw work. It's your master document. It's the one thing you don't want to lose, okay? Because if and when you need to go back in and edit your animation, you're coming back to your FLA, okay? If and when you need to make a change or continue working, you're coming back to the FLA. It is your master document. It's the only document inside of our system that contains your timeline, all your keyframes, symbols, and stage information, okay? So preserve it. It's important. So you're going to be saving this. This is one of the 2 things that you're going to be submitting. Now, the second thing that you're going to be submitting is under the export menu. And I want you to export a movie, okay? This is going to produce a QuickTime movie of your Flash animation. And this QuickTime movie, the .mov or .mp4, based on which operating system you're working on, is going to be the one that you can share with your friends online, okay? Let's just do it real fast. It doesn't take too long to export the movie. I'll just call this test animation, put it right there on my desktop. Oh, this is, my brain is not thinking at the end of the day. You don't want to do a sequence, okay? Because this is going to produce a series of images, okay? I think my animation has 48 frames in there right now. So I would get, if I left it at JPEG sequence, GIF, or PNG sequence, I'd get 48 individual images, individual frames. We don't want that. I actually directed you guys towards the wrong thing, and this is just, that's my bad. I had a brain dump. I apologize. We don't want export movie. We want export video. Yes, sir?
Okay, so put it in the desktop?
Yeah, put it somewhere that makes sense to you. Yes, that would work. Okay. All right. So here's what you're going to get. Okay. The size. Some other parameters, which is going to determine how it looks. Okay. And then a location. Now I'm just going to put this test and right there on my desktop. And you don't, this is something that you don't necessarily have to do. It says convert video in media encoder. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but media encoder is an application that's designed by Adobe that is kind of a Swiss Army knife for compressing and transcoding video from one format into another. It's pretty great. For what we're doing in here, I don't think we're going to necessarily take advantage of it at the moment. Let's hit export. And I think it's done. Yep, there it is. Test animation. Ta-da! That's just absolutely fantastic, right? So you're always, always, always going to get a QuickTime movie when you export your video. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. So as a small little review, a recap, when you're finished, definitely make sure you save your FLA file. That's something you're going to be turning in. In addition, also go in and export the video. That way you have an external QuickTime movie that you then can send to YouTube, publish to Facebook, just have on your computer. It's a little bit easier to use and work with than having to open up a Flash file or an Adobe Animate file. Sound good? Yes, sir. Export video. Yep. You got it. Yeah. Yeah. When you're finished. Yeah. Great question. Actually, you're reading my notes, Elwin, as always. All right. Let's return back to Canvas for a second and talk about specifically what you're striving to complete on your 2 little missions this week. First and foremost, the Screen Lab. You know, spend another 10 or 15 minutes poking around with Animate. Get comfortable with the process of animating something inside of this environment, okay? I don't want you to be lost or confused on the sequence that we're going to follow, so it's an important one to finish, okay? When you are finished and you're happy with your animation, you're going to submit both your FLA and your QuickTime movie to this button right here. So I've returned to Canvas, back into the assignment sheet that showed up in the week 2 module. In the upper right-hand corner of that screen, there's that gigantic Submit Assignment button. You'll get a little window here. Let's see, he's going to let me do it in Student View. It's down here at the bottom. Excuse me, I apologize. And then you'll be able to upload your files. You're uploading 2, right? The FLA and the rendered QuickTime movies. If you want, you can give me a nice little comment saying this is the best assignment ever. Hashtag Professor Pat's awesome. Okay? You don't have to give me a comment though, right? It's up to you. And then you're not done until you hit that submit button. So you attach the file and then you submit it. Okay? So I could, if I wanted to, go find my test animation that I just created, hit open, add another file, okay? I'm not going to do it, and then submit assignment. It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy. Canvas is making it simple for us now, which is fantastic. So for every assignment, for both lab and homework, you're going to be giving me your FLA file, your raw project file, and the exported video. So 2 things per assignment. I want to be able to see your work in Flash or in Animate, and I want to be able to watch your QuickTime movie too. Producing these videos is a great way for us to go through our kind of comment and critique section of each one of your assignments. It saves us from having to like open up Animate and jump into your raw project file. Often the easiest and path of least resistance is just jumping in and looking at your QuickTime movie. So I want you to, we're kind of building the muscle here, you know? It's like going to the gym, right? I hate going to the gym. Like I can think of a dozen things like that off the top of my head that I'd rather be doing than sitting in that damn gym doing this, right? I'm not a gym rat. I hate working out. I have to because I'd be like Jabba the Hutt if I didn't, right? Because I love cake, right? We're working out a muscle right now. Okay, it's important that we go through our iterations and kind of strengthen this process before we move on to something more complex. Okay, so finish up your screen direction. If we return to the week 2 module, the other thing that we want to do this week is the bouncing ball, okay? And the bouncing ball is a little bit more complex, okay? I want you to look at page 36 and 37 inside of your animated survival kit. They have some really, really great illustrations and breakdowns of how all this is going to work, okay? Pay real close attention to the breakdowns, the key frames, and then use the skills that we just learned inside of class today to begin fleshing out this bouncing ball animation, okay? It's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be pretty simple. The big ideas that I want you guys to remember and think about are these arcs, okay? These arcs, okay? How can we change the animations to get what we're after, okay? Or our motion paths inside of Adobe Animate to get these wonderful, wonderful arcs, okay? All right. When you're done, please make sure you're submitting both of these back to this assignment sheet here in Canvas. Sound good? All right. Yes, sir.
One we just did was that part of the direction.
Yeah, screen direction. When you're finished. When you think you're finished. Elwin, you got a question?
You know, in the submission guideline, it said Photoshop
Oh, for which one? I will change that. Thank you, Elwin. What is the what? Publish. Publish isn't something that we're probably going to need to do. Publish is really reserved for when you're, well, here's the cool thing about working inside of Adobe Animate. It's actually designed for the web world. And Adobe Flash was originally created to give us interactive website experiences, animated website experiences. In the early days of Flash, there's a bunch of animation on the web, like you roll over like a button, and it'll like bounce around and move and stuff. Okay, and we can you can program functions to fire off inside of Adobe Animate. When you hit the Publish button, all that code, all the JavaScript, and what you've created inside of Flash or Animate is going to be bundled up and exported from the system. We're not going to be talking about that at all. We're just going to be using the animation capabilities and the timelines for us to make some fun animations. All right, questions, comments? Everyone, yes, sir. You're having troubles opening your projects off of your desktop. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, what are you trying to, well, you're currently in Safari right now. Jump back over into Animate. Yeah, see if you look up here at the top of the screen, it says Safari. There you go. All right. Other questions, comments? All right, good luck. May the force be with you. I'll see you guys next week.